This video is all about weapon accessory stats fully explained. We're going to be going over stability, accuracy, range, reload speed, and mobility. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it is whenever you go to your equipment menu and you go to accessories, and it explains all of these stats, what they do, what you want to prioritize, what's good, what's bad, why it sucks, why it's great. Let's get into it. First, we'll start with stability, and just so that you know, you can click the expand button down here in the bottom right, and you can see detailed stats about what everything does. I'm going to explain why you want certain stats and why you don't want other stats. So let's start with stability. So stability is defined by the game as recoil variation rate. Now, let me just tell you right now, if you've played other shooting games, you probably know what stability is. So stability is when you are full autoing by shooting a gun just like this. It is how often that your cursor moves around. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold down the shoot button with no mouse movement whatsoever, and I want you to see just how variable that this gets. So here we go. You can see that my character is kind of like, the aim is kind of bobbing around a little bit there. Now when I shoot, this is where the aim goes. It's pulling up a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. And there you go. So in order to counteract stability, you have to pull your mouse down as you shoot like this, so you can kind of stay on target, right? So that's part of it. That's what I would call third-person stability. There is another stability, and that's when you aim down first person like this. So just aiming down first person, if I just hold the left click down, it still pulls up as you would expect. Now, I can counter that by either firing little short bursts, or by just pulling my mouse down and controlling the recoil. So that's what stability basically is, but stability is insanely important, because without any stability, your weapon will be so crazy, you won't be able to control it even by pulling the mouse down, even by firing in short bursts. Firing in short bursts in this game, because it has RPG elements, is a huge damage loss, or DPS, damage per second loss. Stability is a very important stat, but only up to a certain point, and let me show you what I'm talking about. So here we have the KM Pioneer, one of the stronger early game weapons in Phase 1, and here you can see that I have a stability rating on this weapon of about 60. So stability 60 gives me a recoil variation rate of 0.7. If I were to equip things that were even more stable, this number does not increase or improve. I'm sorry, it decreases, but it does not improve very much. So if I put 40 more stability on this bad boy, this number will be such a small, insignificant amount that you cannot feel it or tell. However, if your stability is incredibly low, this number gets really high, and your weapon just goes all over the place. So what you want for your weapon stability is anything over 50 is golden. 60 is like the sweet spot, and anything like close to 60, maybe 58, 57, or 63, 64, that'd be a little bit overkill. You want it around 60 for the optimal value of your points, if that makes sense. So essentially, if you increase it too much, it has depreciating value. Yeah, it makes it slightly easier to control, but not so much more. Whereas if it's very low, it's insanely hard to control, and every little, like, getting stability early on and trying to push it to 50 is way more beneficial than having it, like, at 90. You won't feel it at 90. You'll feel it from 20 to 60. So stability, very important to get about midway if you can. Next up is accuracy, and accuracy is another very important stat. So accuracy works two different ways here. So when you're in third-person mode and you aim over the shoulder like this, OTS, you will see the aim reticule. Now, having high accuracy does not make this tighter. This is based on your weapon. Your bullet spread is based on your weapon. The cursor does not change based on your accuracy stat. However, the bullets will go more closer towards the dot. As you can see, none of the bullets I'm shooting are anywhere towards the edges of my cursor's box. You see how it's very close to that dot? That's what accuracy does. Now, when you're in first-person mode, accuracy also makes it very close to your aiming reticule. Be it, if you have a red dot sight, I have this here. I forget what the sight is called, but even with iron sights, it still fixes that. It won't be all over the place. So accuracy is super important. Getting to 100 accuracy is highly recommended on any precision weapons. It's not really doable on some of the legendaries, and it's not doable for LMGs. And for shotguns, it just lets you have a tighter bullet spread. It's not super important. But for your pistols are very accurate. Your snipers are very accurate. You really don't need accessories to increase accuracy on pistols and snipers as much as you do rifles and LMGs. You do want to pump accuracy as high as possible, but do note that especially on rifles and of course snipers, you can't go above 100. Once your accuracy is at 100, anything that you have equipped that pushes that over is wasted points. Also, to talk a little bit more about accuracy, your firing spread variance, unlike stability where it's very depreciative towards the top, accuracy not at 100 is very detrimental. You can see my spread angle is 0.348, and anything below that, like going down to 87, only 13 points, nearly doubles my spread, almost double. It is absolutely wild just how awful your accuracy can get without add-ons. So if you've ever fired any of the weapons in Once Human without it, I'm going to tell you right now, having 100 accuracy makes the game feel like Call of Duty. It makes the game feel like having a mythic weapon in Fortnite. Whereas having accuracy low in the low 30s to 40s makes the game feel worse than Counter-Strike, okay? If you've ever played those games, you know that the aiming is wild. So, yes, the AK-47 in Counter-Strike, especially 1.6 or even the older versions of the game, very huge spread. You don't want that in this game. Weapon range is not what you think it is. It is not how far your bullet can hit a target. It is the damage. There is something called damage fall off in this game, and let me kind of explain what that means. So damage fall off is if I hit a target super duper far away, which I don't have any targets around here, there's no hostile enemies, but if there were, well, if I'm shooting from this distance away, like at these Shephosaurus Rexes here, if I could hurt them, I would deal significantly less damage than if I was up close spraying them in the face. My bullet damage modifier, as shown in the menu here, kind of tries to explain that. It's a little vague, though. It's not really the best at doing it, but you can see here, range. You have a minimum damage multiplier, so technically, if you're close, you're dealing more damage, and then you have a distance, and this is in meters, and then you have the effective firing range, which is a dump stat. It doesn't really mean much of anything. It just shows like a sniper has a higher effective firing range, but essentially, in this game, the way the meta works and the way, your PvE and PvP encounters work is if you're this far away, you're just going to be using a sniper rifle anyway. And so range is and isn't that important. There's a few big boss fights where the bosses are very far away. There's a flying whale, which you need snipers. There's also a level 50 boss. I won't spoil it. But in the betas, there was a flying boss, and you need snipers for that. Let's say that you have a rifle or an LMG, and you max out the range on it. It will not be even close to the modifiers on a sniper, and even with the flying whale in the sky with maximum range on your weapon, you won't deal a significant amount of damage for all of your accessories to be coded for range, if that makes sense. So range, do not worry about pumping up your range at all on any weapon. If you can get it as a bonus, I guess that's okay, but just ignore range and you'll be completely fine. Now, I also did some testing with shotguns to see what about the range on shotguns. I'm going to tell you right now, like the only really good shotgun build that I've seen is a Power Surge build, and Power Surge ignores weapon range, and I thought I just jumped off my base. So if you're doing a Power Surge build, you don't need any range. You just need to make sure that you're peppering the enemy with bullets, and your Power Surge build will do the rest. Whereas if you're not, having a shotgun with lots of range, yeah, you can still hit targets, and the bullets deal a little bit more damage. I would say it might be worth it for shotguns if you want to try to do some sort of weird distance shooting thing, but there's no slugs in the game, and your pellet spread is still going to be just as wide with or without range. It only affects the bullet damage. And because you're hitting with multiple bullets with a shotgun, it might be worth it to pump range on shotguns. But other than that, I mean, you're playing a shotgun. You should be up close anyway, dude. Now I want to talk about reload speed. Now, reload speed is based on seconds. If I reload my weapon, it is 2.6 seconds to reload. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, with all the best accessories in the game on any of your weapons, you're not denting this number significantly enough. I think with all the best legendary accessories in the game equipped to a rifle or even a shotgun or, other weapon, especially LMG, your reload time is not dipping below 2 seconds. Most of your reload time is based on buffs, especially the fast gunner perk, and a few other very specific armors and weapon mods, or armor mods even, that are there to affect your reload speed. So do not worry about reload speed when picking out your accessories, because you're barely gonna move this number. And then when you have your armors and stuff, like a full reload speed build, the fastest I've seen is 1.25. And if they took off all their reload accessories, it would be like 1.4. So you're saving 150 milliseconds of time, which is like a human blink, I believe. You're saving a blink's worth of time by fully kitting yourself out for reloading time. So don't worry about reload speed. When you're doing PvE on regular enemies, you have mods and armor abilities that will just reload for you and give you bullets. So it's only really viable in, like, fighting, like, bosses. But even then, like, bosses usually have phases where you have to go on the defensive, and there's plenty of time to reload. End game, you're going to have so much ammo magazine capacity, it really isn't a big deal. And then finally, there's mobility. Now, mobility says it affects your over-the-shoulder and scoped-in movement speed and hip fire. So what this means is it does not affect how fast you're running around. And my character is fully dehydrated, so I'm moving slow no matter what. Hold on. By the way, if you made it this far in the video, I want to give you the coolest tip in the game. If you mouse over a food item and hold Control and push F, you can actually consume multiples of those foods instead of having to eat them one at a time. And so you can just fully regenerate whatever it is you need. So having your accessories boost your mobility does not honestly do much. Now, I don't have a comparison to show you in footage, but essentially mobility does not affect your regular running around speed or your sprint speed. That would be movement speed on your gear. What it does affect very slightly is the time it takes to switch weapons. So I have the heavy axe. This thing is true to its name, and when I'm swapping to the rifle, look how long it takes until I can shoot. So not too long, but it also affects like things like I'm doing a swing and then a swap, and it does take time, even though it glitches out, to pull out the rifle. So yeah, there is a time there. So mobility does affect that if you are in mid-swing. It's kind of buggy, though. It's not super reliable. But what mobility does affect is if you are hip firing, this is hip fire, how much you can strafe left and right, your speed at strafing left and right or moving forward and backwards. This is very insignificant for PvP, especially if maybe if like someone's using a controller, which I don't think is even supported yet, but also over the shoulder. So this, you can see that this is kind of this is the same move speed as this. It's just you can't really tell because of the zoom in. And the same thing with scoped weapons. So if you're scoped in and you're moving around, that's your movement speed there. So having higher mobility will boost those numbers. However, it only applies to like pistols and submachine guns. And let me try to show you what I mean. So I'm using a rifle, and let's go to mobility, like a mobility thing here. I think there's a bipod here. So we're going to expand, and let's look at something that reduces mobility. So the folding bipod reduces my mobility by 20. However, even though I lost 20 mobility, you can, well, it's actually more. I'm going from 57 to 30, so that's 27 mobility. I'm losing like almost 50% of my mobility by if I were to put this on. However, my over-the-shoulder and my scope movement speed and my hip fire movement speed is the exact same. And that is because it's a rifle. On pistols and submachine guns, this number does change. And at one point in the beta, it didn't. I don't have a pistol to show you, or I could, but so it only applies to those weapons. So if you want to be like, aiming down the sights with a pistol and having hyper mobility, especially when you're buffed with speed potions and potions, which I don't think I have any on this character, but there's one that gives you somewhere. I'm sure I have it. It's a 20% increased action speed potion. So if you go a mobility build, you need food buffs to back it up. It's in here somewhere. I don't know where I put it, but or maybe it's in one of my other bases down here. But essentially, only go a mobility build if you're a pistol user, you're doing PvP, and you have mobility food buffs. Otherwise, don't worry about it. Mobility is completely worthless. And yes, that does mean that putting a bipod, which as silly as that sounds on an AK-47, is one of the good moves to do. But this doesn't come out until Chalk Peak, which is Phase 2. But yeah, this gives you way more accuracy and stability. But in this case, my accuracy would drop below 100, which is way more important than getting this minor boost in stability, like I explained earlier in the video. So if you skipped ahead, please go watch those sections. And there you go. So that is the stats fully explained. What are the best accessories for each weapon? Well, if this video does well, I just might make those videos too. Please leave a like. It really does help the video. And if you have any questions, I have no life. Even though I have a high subscriber count, I read every comment. I literally have nothing else to do with my life than read your comments. I'm not joking. I'm not being snide or anything. I'm telling you the truth. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something cool. Let me know in the comments what you think, or if things change in the future. We'll see. And finally, on the right side of your screen is a video that you should absolutely click. And if you don't click it, then you're going to realize that your toilet paper is running very low and you have to go buy more. And yeah, I worded that wrong. It was supposed to be that you wouldn't realize that you're running low on toilet paper. And whatever, you get a freebie today.